Hello, everyone. I hope you are all doing well today. It is Apex Trades here with another market sector analysis. So today we had a gap down open in the markets, which the bulls promptly bought up. It is interesting to see the human psychology that exists with gap ups and gap downs. When you see a gap up after the weekend, people are taking profit. And when you see a gap down, they are buying, taking advantage of those cheaper prices. So there was an overall very strong day in the markets. I'll zoom in on the 15-minute chart. So on the SPY, there wasn't the best follow through. We see this big gap down. Bulls bought the dip. Not a lot of follow through, not a lot of strength, kind of a stagnant day. But big bull volume coming in at the end of the session, last 15 minutes. So that's interesting and good to see. But overall, we finished with this upper wick inside bar. So with an inside bar, we're always looking at the high and the low to gauge directional clarity. So the high being the 380.58 level and the low being 377.72. Either way will provide direction for the rest of the week, or at least a session or two. The main pivot high that the bulls need to break is at 381.49. We are approaching that 385 psychological level, which would be the next main resistance after we break out of this 381.49 level, or if we break out of it. The pivot low that the bulls need to defend is at 364.82. So bulls have made a lot of space from that 364.82 level. If we top out here, break the low of today and see some follow through, most likely outcome would be a higher low compared to that bottom pivot. And then hopefully we can see that daily continuation move past this 381.50 level. So that is most likely the outcome if we pull back. If we continue higher, then we are just marching onwards. But we'll see what happens in the coming days and weeks. The dollar getting some follow through, bouncing out of this daily falling wedge. So this is some of the most follow through that we've seen on the dollar daily chart since October and September. So both times when we saw this bounce, we were likely saying to ourselves, okay, well, a higher low is the most likely outcome, especially here, kind of made this bottoming pattern, maybe a inverse head and shoulders. We saw this big strong bounce. Are we going to see a higher low and then just continued weakness, change the daily trend to a downward trend, broke it and could not hold it, and then continued into this falling wedge here. So we'll see how the bulls come through. Right now, the most likely outcome is a higher low, and the bulls on the dollar are setting themselves up for a nice daily trend change. They need to hold this low of 89.20. That's the key pivot low the bulls need to defend. And the one they need to break is at 91 level. So from here, we'll be watching the higher low of each session to pass to distinguish whether or not the top is in. But for me, viewing this, the most likely outcome is a lower high compared to that 91 level, a higher low compared to 89.2. And if we can see both of these two circumstances transpire, then we could see continuation higher, and the dollar daily trend change will move to bullish, which would put a little pressure on the assets. Right now, we are seeing that correlation in sync because there's so much money pouring into the broader markets that the dollar making a technical bounce means very little. But it is nice to see RSI is cooling off. So this could be, a really good situation for the asset bulls. If we see a little bit of follow through with the dollar, money continues to pour in, so the bull march continues or at least just stagnates. And then once the dollar loses its weakness, just based off trend, the dollar bulls can't see any continuation or any follow through at all. So basing that on trend, basing this hypothesis on the trend that has been established over the last few months, who knows? We might just see continual bleed when we are trying to make this higher low, and that'll allow the assets to continue moving higher. But getting a little ahead of ourselves right now, most likely outcome is a lower high. And if we break out of this 91 level, that does show a lot of strength for the dollar bulls. So be aware of that. But most likely outcome is still that lower high. QQQ showing some notable weakness. A lot of the markets were strong. Even SMH had a very strong day, which we'll get to in a second. But QQQ showing that weakness and potential fear of a Democrat-run government breaking up big tech, and hampering their bottom lines. So we had that confirmation of a pullback, breaking Friday's low definitively. However, not very notable or telling volume at all. Zoom in on the 15-minute chart, we can see that gap up. Bulls slightly bought it and then faded for the rest of the day. Lots of volume coming into the last 15 minutes, always notable to see that. But right now, QQQ bulls need to make a higher low compared to this pivot down here of 305.18. Once they do that, they are eyeing that top of 319.39, 320 psychological. So based off the size of this impulse move, the most likely outcome, and sticking with the daily trend, which has been established ever since November 10th, most likely outcome is a higher low. So dollar bulls, although they are pulling back, showing a little bit of weakness, sorry, not the dollar bulls, the tech bulls, although they are pulling back and showing a little weakness, are in perfect condition to make that higher low. So no worries there at all. IWM continuing with that strength. Another inside bar day for this sector as well. So looking for the high of 208.12 or the low of 204.83 for directional clarity. If we break the high, the next pivot on deck is that 209.77, 210 psychological. If we break the low, then we are most likely going to make a higher low compared to that 190.94 level. Bulls have carved out a tremendous amount of room to do so, so that would be the most likely outcome. But keep these two levels on watch nonetheless. SMH, again, showing that relative strength compared to QQQ. So normally these two sectors, because they're both in tech, follow each other quite well. SMH has a little bit more range, tends to be more volatile, but it is notable to see how SMH is strong without QQQ in the picture. So if we look at NVDA, so we're watching this huge pattern take shape. We had a bit of a fake out here on the 6th of January, but the bulls bought that dip. Now we're squeezing some shorts, a little bit of profit taking at the end of the day. AMD, we had theorized about a potential head and shoulders pattern last week, but I said that if we broke this pivot high up here, that pattern was no longer valid. And so we did not close above it, but a strong upper wick, good volume. So to me, this pattern is invalidated. Now we can confirm the thesis that the hypothesis that the most likely outcome was a weekly bull flag. So we had this big strong move up, and keep doing that. Come on. All right. So we had this big strong move up, and now we are flagging. So it looks like we are breaking out of this weekly bull flag, which is helping SMH overall. So SMH getting continual follow through out of this bull pennant. Key pivot high that the bulls are eyeing now is 235.93. And they got to make a higher low if they do decide to pull back compared to 216.56, but ultimately this 211.92. So we can zoom in on the 4-hour chart just to get a little bit more clarity. I'm actually going to erase this pennant as I think we all get the picture. So we have that little pivot down here at 216.56. We have an hourly pivot much higher at 227.86. So these are the 4 levels that the bulls are watching. If we break this key level here at 227.86, the daily consolidation is underway, and we just have to make a higher low compared to this zone, we'll call it. But if we break the high, then the bull move continues. Tan, so big gap down, but bulls bought the dip. Zooming in on the extended hours chart gives us the most clarity here. As we can see, had this brief consolidation, huge bull volume coming in for our flag pull. First impulse move up. Well, not our first, but this impulse move up. Most likely outcome was a pullback, and we are looking for a higher low compared to the pivot down here. So I'll mark these levels out for you promptly right away. So the pivot low that the bulls need to make a higher low compared to is this one of 97.64. And ultimately the bulls need to break this pivot high of 123.66. So looking at the RSI, we are seeing it very overextended, however, is not diverging. So it's nice to see a little bit of pullback, let the RSI cool off, and now we will hopefully see continuation moving forward into the into the rest of the week. But healthy pullback for the solar bulls, no red flags at all. XLV continuing higher, maybe seeing some slight exhaustion here. We are looking a little toppy, a little roundish. Volume is decreasing. Volume is decreasing here. So not saying anything, but just noting that potential weakness coming through. RSI is a little overextended, so any pullback, let the RSI cool off, and continuation would be the most likely outcome from there. But nonetheless, if we do pull back, looking for a higher low compared to this pivot down here of 111 and 11 cents. Pivot high that the bulls need to break is today's high of 118.13. So I'll likely see a higher low. If we do pull back from here, I'm not saying that we will, retest that breakout area, reload, and see continuation higher. But XLV bulls looking exceptionally strong overall. XLF, again, very strong, breaking out of this pattern here, seeing great follow through, eyeing that all-time high of 31.38 from this February high. If the bulls do decide to pull back, they just need to make a higher low compared to this pivot of 28.83. Aside from that, the 31.38 level is on deck. If we do pull back, most likely the outcome is a higher low. We might have even set it here, but most likely the outcome is a higher low as the bulls have carved out a tremendous amount of space to do so. And XBI, so we were looking for either a higher low compared to that 152.70 or a break of it. So it looks like we've made a bit of a top. Bulls bought the dip today, so a lot of strength in this sector. The most likely outcome after seeing this sharp of a move and this steep of a recovery would be a higher low, form some sort of equilibrium, maybe an ascending triangle, and then a break. So I am anticipating a little pullback. Bulls will likely buy the dip, make a higher low compared to 138.91, and then hopefully can break that 152.70 level with conviction, and we'll see more continuation from here. But a very, very, very nice recovery for the XBI bulls. Today, I am also going to look over two stocks that I am watching quite closely. So ACB, I noted on Twitter that a couple weeks ago, maybe a week ago, that the marijuana sector overall looked extremely bullish. But as you can see, I'll try to remember some names offhand. So MJ was one of them, making a beautiful bull flag here, but we had this massive gap up and then the price just kind of ran away. So I didn't get any entry. I didn't have an opportunity to, but that's kind of disappointing when you see, the move gap up so much. Already reached the first target. What was some other candles? Tilroy, TLRY, was it? Was that the ticker? Yeah. Okay, so another stock that was setting up almost identical to ACB, lots of great bull volume, and then we just gap up and we're running. So I don't like buying when price action is all the way up here. It just seems too overextended, too much risk, too much to lose essentially. If you're not in the position, all the way down here, then what's the point of taking it halfway to the profit taking level where you can look at other patterns that are still in development? And ACB represents one of those. So we had a smaller gap up and now we are making what appears to be a bull flag, which is beautiful. So here we have this pattern which has 3 points of connection at the top trend line, and well, I guess you could count this one as a third, but 2 definitive points of connection at the bottom trend line. So this pattern is 100% valid. And now we are seeing a gap up, a impulse move out of this pattern, and what appears to be a bull flag forming. Now that to me is a textbook opportunity for entry. So what I was watching today, as you can see by this line that I marked out, was Friday's high. That to me confirms that this bounces in. Now I didn't take a position, excuse me, I didn't take a position yet, but I am looking for one tomorrow. And this just has textbook continuation written all over it, targeting the $17, $18 range up where the Fibonacci extension is, which correlates very nicely to this previous high here. So as soon as we get over this high of 1448, basically 15 psychological, we're home free for a couple dollars. And this pattern looks absolutely beautiful. Look at this volume shelf that's forming, bull flag out of the consolidation, great bull volume all around, and an earnings. Actually, we didn't beat earnings, but just with the overall market sentiment that's being established in the marijuana industry, especially with the Democratic government, this is poised for a nice, strong run. The second ticker that I wanted to go over, DM, this is one I kind of just stumbled upon, but I'm very grateful I did, the 3D printing company. So here we have this beautiful pattern, again, multiple points of confluence. We see how this low almost touched that top trend line out of the breakout, confirming the bullish sentiment, and we see fabulous bull volume all around. So a lot of investors taking note of this stock, and today we formed an inside bar. So what I am watching for, I love inside bars. This is why I wanted to show this this chart on this video, was just to show how it is such a great setup to see an inside bar out after a breakout. So I'm looking for the high of 2114 to break for an entry. As simple as that. And then I have room to run, or the stock has room to run all the way up to 30, maybe even more with this type of volume here. I mean, we could see it all the way up to 50 in time. But I don't want to go down speculation avenue. Like, I mean, this is completely my opinion, and this is in no way financial advice. So do your own research and do not follow these trades blindly. However, very great setup on DM and ACV. So I hope you all enjoyed the video and had a great day trading. I will talk to you tomorrow.